Well, let me tell you about the Southcoasters. We met in 1961 in Houston, and I ran into John and Beeman at a party in the Sin Alley, which was an area between Westheimer and San Felipe. And they were out on the courtyard playing guitars, and I was over at that area helping a man put some furniture in his new apartment. And I heard this singing down in the courtyard, and I said, "Whoa, man, that sounds good." So I went outside and I listened. I went on downstairs, and this big old crowd was around these boys. And they were sitting up on the steps between, the first and second floor, and they were playing these folk songs with their guitars. And so I just started kind of harmonizing with them from the crowd, something. And either John or Beeman spoke up and said, "Who's out there? Who's singing?" And I kind of went, "It's me." And they said, "Come up here. Come on, sing with us." So I sat up there with them on that landing, and we sang folk songs. And I harmonized with them, and then we moved to a party inside one of the participants' apartments there. And about that time, that storm, Carla, came roaring into town, blew out all the lights, all the electricity, shut everything down in the city, and there we were stuck in that apartment for 3 days. And it was an intense 3 days. We sang and we sang and we sang, and people were sleeping on the floor. It was funny. But we just kept it going from there. We enjoyed each other's company so much in doing the singing. We met the next day that we got out of the apartment, started singing again. And that's kind of how it all started. But back in 1961. The first song we wrote was Black Gold or Hurricane. I can't remember which one was first. But Hurricane kind of comes to mind first because that was right there at that storm. And it was pretty fresh in our memory. So the music that we came up with mimicked the intensity of the storm and the wind and everything that was associated with it. So that song came pretty quick. And then we started writing, just making up some other songs and writing cards and playing guitar. And we started hearing this one progression going from one chord to another. I said, "What does that sound like?" He said, "It sounds like a pump jack, like an oil pump jack." And sure enough, it did. It sounded like that motor that's on that pump jack. And we started writing Black Gold. It kind of flowed out like water. And that was it. Both of those were big hits, yeah. They both were big hits. When we wrote the songs, we did not expect to record them. We just wrote them for the fun of it. And after listening to them and having other people hear us play them and sing them, they said, "Hey, why don't you record those?" So we went about trying to find a way to record them. And you wouldn't believe where we recorded them. We recorded them in an old band hall with egg cartons stapled to the walls to deaden the sound. And I had borrowed a bass from the band teacher of the junior high school. we took it down in one take. We made the record in one take. Did we have a recording contract at the time? No, we did not have a recording contract. I can't even remember how we associated with the people that we did, but somehow word got out that, this group sounded pretty good and they wanted to get a recording. And J.L. Patterson was the one that helped us record that. He's no longer with us, but that was the first one. We paid for the recording. They weren't much. I mean, it didn't take much on the circumstances that we did. I think for the use of the bass and the band hall, it couldn't have been much. And J.L. didn't charge us anything for his engineering work. To be in the studio and record is a fun thing. It's a fun thing. And you get an idea of how intricate it can be. And back in those days, it had to be perfect every time. If it wasn't perfect, they just break the acetate right there and start over. But it evolved into tapes, and where you splice tapes. If you had a bad spot, you can splice the tape and get the good spot again. And then, of course, same thing with digital, which was even easier. But the recording industry, as far as producing and making a record, it's fun. Still is. My passion for folk music stems I'd say, really from Burl Ives, Harry Belafonte, Joan Baez, Kingston Trio, Limelighters. Oh, I could go on with more. But those people really sang from the heart. Pure, beautiful songs. And it just spoke to me. And that folk music is a genre that I happen to key in on. John and Beeman were of the same bent. That's why we really hit it off. We were right in that folk groove. We liked the same artists, same songs. And it was very easy to do what we did as far as singing together, because we were right on the same page as what we wanted to do. John and Beeman and I sang together for probably a little over a year, maybe a year and a half, I can't remember. And then another fellow took John's place when he went back to California to become a big mogul in the real estate business out there. And Gary Boggs took his place, and we played with Gary for several more years. We played with Gary Boggs in most of the places in this part of the country. And it was with Gary that we finally decided to shut it down, because things were kind of getting bigger than both of us. We were getting offers from a lot of places. We had to make a decision: were we going to do this full time, or did we want to have regular lives? And two of us decided we wanted regular lives. So we shut it down. Gary went on to perform with Christy Minstrels and the Chad Mitchell Trio, and I think one or two other groups. No regrets at all. I don't regret that we stopped when we did. I don't regret doing the performances we did. We enjoyed them all. We sang to as many as 10 and 20,000 people at a time. We sang with people like Johnny Cash and Judy Collins, and Merle Haggard. I could list a bunch of them. At that time, we were in what were called hootenannies, and they were very, very popular venue to go and see a lot of different types of acts of folk singers. And we sang at a lot of folk houses, to packed houses. And as I said before, we had the fire marshal out more than one time. Well, the Encore series came about. John and Beeman and I have gotten together periodically over the years. We've always stayed in touch. We're good friends. Our families are good friends and know each other. And every year we get together and sing 2 or 3, 4 days straight until we're hoarse. And we decided, at our age, we better get on with it if we're really going to do any major recording anymore. And we decided, if now's the time to do it, let's do it for a good cause. And we chose to go with the MD Anderson group to try to produce records to raise awareness and money to support the research for prostate cancer research and breast cancer research. Because both Beeman and I have had prostate cancer. And that was part of the reason also, I'm sure, for us going in that direction. It's just another step in the fight to try to find a cure to cancer. Money doesn't come to us. It goes to MD Anderson, which is the way it should be. And that research has got to be fueled and funded somehow. And as I've told a lot of folks, I said, there's lots of really well-deserving charities out there, because there's lots of heartache. And ours is certainly not the only one. But it just happens to be one that touches a lot of lives. Hardly anybody doesn't have a family member, or they know somebody that's had breast cancer or prostate cancer. It's just rampant. And thank goodness they are starting to make some new advances that I think are really going to help this next generation. But it's being funded by things like little dribbles of money coming in for the research to keep it going. So that's why we're doing it. People can buy our CDs. The easiest way is just go to the website at www.southcoasters.com, and you have a choice of 1, 2, or 3 of the Encore series. You can choose any or all, and any of the others that we hopefully make. But that's the easiest way. You can also get the songs off of Spotify, Pandora, Amazon, any of the major download sites.
Do you have any closing thoughts?
Only I ask that you go buy a CD. Help kill the cancer. Help us kill the cancer.